Welcome, THL. How's it going tonight? We are here with week 2 of HearthCenter of the new season. And joining me, as always, is going to be Lotus Knight this evening. How you doing, Lotus?
Hey, doing well, Dante. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, not no complaints here. Had a fun week 1, so looking forward to talking about it. Uh, Joining us as a guest, sort of. He's been on before, but he's back for tonight. It's Two Star Mako. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing late edition, but I'm here for the ride.
Yeah, thanks for coming by on short notice. You know the deal. I didn't have to really prep you much. You know how this show rolls because you've been on a few times. So it's gonna be a fun one tonight. As you guys can see, we've got kind of a condensed schedule, not a whole lot to talk about, but we'll go in depth on each of them. We've got the Pro Week One recap. We're going to talk about the meta in each series, which is all thanks to Hat's new stat setup. As you guys have noticed, as you submit your scores, you have to submit a little bit more detail, and that is allowing us to get a better look at the stats in the meta in each series. So we're going to talk about that tonight as our preliminary kind of thoughts on it, and of course we'll preview Pro Week 2. So what do you guys say? You ready to talk about what happened last week in Pro?
Let's get to go.
Let's do it.
All right. Now, Lotus, I know you weren't here for Pro. I think you subbed out of Pro last week. Is that right?
I'm only playing Legacy this season, and last week I was in bed the whole week sick,
That's
so
right.
it
I
was
knew you
not a
subbed out
fun
of
week.
something. I knew you subbed out of something. So I'm glad you're feeling better. Glad you're back.
Yes, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to just be fine again.
Yeah, it's always miserable to be sick.
Pretty much.
So popping up on the screen here, we've got all 6 games from last week. Starting at the top, we've got FTL over the Defias Brotherhood. That was 20-5, so that's going to be a 23-point week for FTL. They were the only such team to hit that mark last week, sweeping not sweeping every game, but sweeping across the board. All 5 players got a win. So Itachi beat Comp, Snake beat Epical Noise, Rabobson beat Ekiname. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Name Ekiname 16.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
Liquid Ox took down Icicles, and Berserk beat Izanami. So I don't think anyone really would have been too surprised by this result. FTL is one of the preseason contenders to be a champion here in the Pro Series second season, but was 23-5 a little bit out there? I'll start with you, Lotus. What do you think about this result?
Um, so to me, yeah, FTL is a great team. Itachi is a great player. Snake is a great player. All of these are just really solid players, and it's looking really strong. I wouldn't say this is necessarily surprising. The fact that they only scored 5 is low, but it can happen. Um, I would say, yeah, FTL is in a great spot, and I do expect them to 100% make playoffs and be a major competitor. But that's not to say that the other team is off or that this settles anything. It's just a sign that consistent THL players do pay off.
Yeah, and everybody here has at least a few seasons under their belt by now.
Yes.
Except for Berserk, he was the only new addition and came in somewhat lauded as far as his personal achievements are concerned. So yeah, strong out of the gate. Mako, anything here that came as a surprise to you, or anything in particular you wanted to take away from this matchup?
No, I mean I don't really think it's that surprising. If you look at like the Defias Brotherhood on paper, I kind of felt like they're one of the weaker teams coming into this season. So I mean them losing 20-5 is a lot less surprising to me than if it were like Tap Blast or the Unknown or someone like that. So I mean,
Yeah.
FTL definitely deserved the win, but at the same time, it's against someone who I would probably say is the weakest on paper team right now. So
Well, interesting that you bring up Tap Last because that's actually the subject of our second game that we're going to talk about was the Beard Boys getting a win 18-7 over Tap Last. So that puts the Beard Boys into second place to start the season. Tap Last a bit of a weak showing there, especially with some of the experience, as you mentioned, Lotus, the experienced players they have in THL and CMAC, Bill Snyder. Valdis was the only one to get a win over Boozosaurus, and the rest of the squad for the Beard Boys took their matchups. Honest Abe over CMAC, Myanodon over Bill Snyder, Hockey Boys over Nerdstrom, and Lesimos over Heatshock in his first THL match. So Beard Boys was projected to be a strong team on paper, and we had discussed them last week as a contender. But Tap Last 2 is a team that we expected to kind of hang around there. Do we see this as a bit of a fluke, or do we think that this is something bigger that Tap Last might struggle a little bit? Mac, I'll start with you on this one.
Oh, you said me.
I did say you.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
See, I I memed the Beer Boys at the start because to them I called them the I think it was the Boomco of Pro Series.
I do recall you mentioned
Just
this.
because it was Booze and Maya, which was about it. But I think it was a little more surprising seeing Tap Last only put up 7 in comparison to Defias only putting up 5. And I think that's more a testament to the skill level that I know of from some of the players on Tap Blast, like CMAC losing 3-1 and Bill Snyder losing 3-0. Like those are more shocking to me. So I would say out of the two of those, that one's definitely a lot more surprising.
I mean, anyone could have a bad
Mm-hmm.
week, and it just might have so happened that they all kind of had a bad week together and bricked.
True.
So,
I mean, also true.
yeah, hard to draw so much out of just 1 week's worth of games, which is obviously what we're trying to do here tonight anyway. But
We're also not even like we don't know what happened in the games either. Like we're just looking
No,
at
we have
a piece
no
of
idea.
paper.
yeah, I mean, obviously it's hard to. We don't have like replays or anything to look at and see, oh man, like, Nerdstrom's out here making these terrible plays and that's why he got swept. Like it could just be that maybe his deck, brick drew 2 out of the 3 games, and the other game he got high rolled. We don't know.
That'd be nice.
Pretty much.
That'd be nice.
But Lotus, what do you think about this matchup here?
Honestly, the Beard Boys looks like a great team. I am on their Discord. I can see them planning a lot. Boost is a great player and captain, so I expect them to do well, and it doesn't really surprise me. Both sides have great players, so I can totally see both of them making it very far. Zave has also been putting really good tournament results.
Yeah, that's can't be understated. He's I think I mentioned that he might be one of the most underrated players in THL, and he shows that every time he plays, he's out here with winning records. He's winning hard series. It's not surprising that he will probably be near, if not the top of this team by the end of the season. I mean, he is now, but he'll probably hold on to that throughout the Swiss, re-ranking as we progress.
Yes,
So
I would say so.
So yeah, so that was game 2. Game 3, as we start to move into some of the closer matchups, was Bad to the Bone versus Aeon. Bad to the Bone, also a very highly picked preseason favorite. They won 16-11 over Aeon. Won 4 of the 5 matches. The only one was Ridiculous Hat for Aeon, who won in resounding fashion over A2 Battleship with a sweep. Every other series, though, was not a sweep, so at least Aeon was picking up some points. Mako, we're obviously a little bit biased here. We kind of know, what we went through this past week, so we'll get Lotus's opinion on the outside here first before we make all of our excuses. So Lotus, you let us know what you think about this one.
I feel like I have a valid excuse for mine.
Oh,
It's
okay.
something that you don't know about, and when I say it, you're probably gonna get a little mad at me, but we'll see how it goes.
I don't like that. Lotus, please cleanse the palate before I excoriate Mako on stream.
So, all I can say here is I think Bad to the Bone has an insane team. I think you guys have a good team, but I think Ego Waffle is a great player. Avi is a great player. A2 has been doing a good job in duos, and Pasca is a very solid player. So it doesn't really surprise me that they beat you guys.
I mean, we're not offended by
That would be
by that analysis, of course. At least I'm not. I will say in my match against Avi, and I brought this up in the Discord too, so this isn't me necessarily being salty or anything, but like I was up 2-1 and I had game 4 and I made one crucial mistake where I had an 8/8 Sea Giant on board, and if I had used that to tap into a 1/1 lackey instead of using my 1/1 taunt, he wouldn't have been able to do his crazy warrior things, and instead he had exact lethal. And if I just had the taunt out there, even as bad as it would have felt to bump the 8/8 into the 1/1, I would have won the game and won the series 3-1. So that one's gonna stick in my craw for a little bit, just because I feel like I
yeah.
know I had it and I could see the exact point where I made the mistake. But yeah, this is the benefit of us being in that game. I can give you the analysis of what I did vastly wrong. Like, complete shout out to Avi, great player, but I felt like I should have had that one. So, Mako, go ahead.
So there once was. Let me tell you a tale, Dundee.
Oh boy.
There once was
Here
a
it comes.
man. There once was a man who decided he was going to play Highlander, or not. Sorry, not Highlander. He was going to play Holy Wrath Paladin for the first time ever in his Pro Series THL match. That man
See,
was
that's not a
me.
good move.
That man was me. Now
Listen,
that tale goes on though, because that man was also up 2-1, and he was playing his Holy Wrath Paladin into Rogue, and he got his Shrivala flicked for sure. He got his Shrivala flicked, and he said, "Surrender button, not today. Today is not the day I surrender. I still have 2 ways to shuffle Zephyrus into my deck. I can end this. I can win this." So that man decided he would go the route of getting as many Tyrians as he could into his deck, and he would just kill his opponent with 5 damage weapon. It was about 6 minutes later when he had his opponent down to 5 health, and he had 2 more charges on his 5 mana on his 5 attack weapon, and he said, "There's nothing this man can do to answer this, because he doesn't have any more healing. He has no armor gain. He's not a warrior. He's a rogue." And guess what he got? Do you have a guess, Stone Day? You know what happened.
I think I remember there was some
Oh,
Alex
if you
Straza
don't remember,
shenanigans.
I'm very upset. That man got a random Alex Straza from a Draconic Lackey,
Fun
and
times.
I would just like to say, in my first ever Holy Wrath Paladin game, I felt like I played the best to my outs after having my Shrivala flicked, and I got thrown into my face by Hearthstone RNG, and it felt so bad. It felt so bad.
I
I
mean,
lost the X2 pretty bad. I was bad. It was
that
bad.
is that is basically the
It's
Hearthstone
bad.
experience summed up in whatever 2
It
minutes
was
that was.
bad.
Um,
Pretty much.
I put so much thought into my plays. I was like, dude, I can get this. I did the math. I was like, I got this. It's like I can, like, unless something happens, like I can straight up win this. Like, he doesn't have that many answers left. Yada 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 yada. I had something to do with a thing to get rid of his taunts. I was like, I got this, and all of a sudden, just fire coming at his face, and he's up to 15, and I'm just sitting there crying. So
this vaguely reminds me of the message I sent to Coles earlier, which said, "Donde plays ladder for fun. Opponent top deck Shutterwalk and hits a 1/7 with me in the face on a lackey damage. Donde is done playing ladder." This is
Well,
basically what happened to you, summed up in 3 sentences
Um,
to me.
I don't know, man. Like, it's whatever. It's fine.
That's
It's fine.
Hearthstone.
I'm
That's what it
fine.
is. So we've strayed far off the path here. But
What's a
bad.
path?
The path is bad to the bone. Getting 16, well, 19 points after the win bonus. Impressive nonetheless. Ego Waffle defeated Coles. Avi defeated yours truly. Pasca beat you, and Manny Skull beat Markshire. So that was not the best start for Aeon. But as far as points are concerned, that's one of the best weeks you can have and not win. So it's still, against a tough opponent, that's not bad. And I think that Aeon should recover, and Bad to the Bone will still continue to be very strong as we progress throughout the early stages of the season.
oh yeah.
On to the second half here. We've got the other guys versus the Menagerie. The other guys being my former team. They won 15-13, and they were kind of one of those teams that last season was looked at as not really a contender, and this season again they're not really looked at as much of a contender by most of the people who have predicted on our shows here. So they lost their top two matches. Surlos fell to Based Ink, Lefty fell to Nine Eyebrows, and then they took the other three with Tony Montana beating Triss, Dirty Mike beating Mata, and JR Juggerlaw beating Dexter. So this is interesting. I feel like it's an even matchup. The points showed that, of course, that it was an even matchup, and I think that we're going to see both of these teams be competitive, but I don't know if we're necessarily going to see either of them end up being a playoff team. But still, it feels like a good win out of the gate for the other guys. Mako, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, the other guys was the team that I kind of felt strongly for going in. I mean, they did pretty well last year, so I felt like they're going to do pretty well again this year. So it wasn't that shocking. Yeah, and I don't have really that much to say about it. I wish Base would have won his legacy matchup like he won his pro matchup. I'll say that. I hope he's watching. She's watching.
Well, shout out to Base then. Hopefully they are watching.
Yeah,
Because
fucking
Mako's
win
now called you out
legacy
specifically.
here. Yeah,
But yeah, I think one of the more shocking results here to me is Triss not getting the win over Tony Montana. And Tony's a strong
agreed.
player, but Triss is quite good, and 3-1 loss, a bit of a setback to open the season. But
For sure, for sure.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Lotus, what do you think about other guys, Menagerie, and their future prospects here as we progress throughout season 2?
I would say I expect Menagerie to do better than this. I would expect them to be more of contenders for at least for making the next round. That being said, it is Hearthstone, and RNG always plays into everything. So I'm happy for the other guys. They're all nice people, and it is a team that I could also see making this time.
Yeah, they Diamond Captain teams always seem to be in the hunt, so we will have to see if they can continue to be in the hunt as the season goes on here. I know
Yes.
firsthand on that, the whole hero tiebreaker thing that we won't get into because that scarred me for life. So, Taste the Rainbow versus Propane Gang. oh yes, laugh. Go ahead. Taste the Rainbow versus Propane Gang. Taste the Rainbow with the 14-11 win, another very close match. Skittles defeats Silent Red RT. Inzi defeats It's Me Mike V. Brick fell to Craig of Canada. Your Mumked, who was subbing for I forget who he was subbing for there, but defeated Darkside to continue that streak. And then Quirky Turtle fell to the Town Drunk in his return to THL action. So Propane Gang, I think, maybe shot a little above their pay grade compared to where we had them in terms of the projection. Taste the Rainbow did still get the win, but are you guys surprised that this was as close as it was?
Never doubt Skittles. I played with him in duos. Really nice guy, really good at figuring out what to bring. So yeah, Taste the Rainbow doesn't look like the kind of squad you would expect to make it really far in pro, but I can see Skittles carrying this team really well.
Yeah, he gets off to that start with a 3-2 win. Inzi with that sweep. Mike V's been having pretty good success in THL, so it's a little surprising to see that result. Mago, what do you think here?
I thought I think this was kind of surprising because I had Taste the Rainbow doing really well this season.
Yeah, I think Taste the Rainbow is going to be contender as well. Propane Gang did have a bit of a makeover, lost a few players, and Darkside does seem to rally the troops pretty well. But yeah, this is I think if, as far as not getting a win, this is a win for them in terms of first week, no expectations, and hey, we came away with 11 points, which means they will be near the middle of the rankings and still within striking distance. It's too early to even remotely talk about playoff implications, but yeah,
Playoffs.
playoffs. Yeah, you want to hang in there.
Playoffs.
Still 10 more
Yeah.
weeks to go. So, yep, a good start as far as a loss is concerned for Propane getting the best that you could probably hope for there. And then finally we come to
Yeah.
Top Hatted Titans with a squeaker of a win over the Unknown, 14-13. Top Hatted Titans are Icer beating Brushy Tuna 3-1. Top Hat Demon fell to Ron Mexico, who continues to just be on a tear in all things THL. Starlax will win over Catman. Lil Hearthy fell to Desharmo, and Silver T-Fox Demon defeats Solo Jazz. There are a couple matchups here that kind of surprised me. Silver over Solo Jazz, who had a great season in Pro the last time out, and Catman falling to Starlax. I think this, in my opinion, kind of looked like it probably should be a runaway for the Unknown, and Top Hat Titans kind of upset here.
Yeah, this is the one matchup this week that I thought was like a for sure by the textbook upset, and I think it has a lot to do with Silver T-Fox Demon winning that 3-2 against Solo Jazz. Because Silver's a 5 seed in Legacy and Hero, and winning that against an arguably what does Solo Jazz playing? He plays in like the 2 or some shit, right?
I don't even know if Solo Jazz is in another series right now. I think they're
He
doing
is
I
in
don't
solely pro.
think he is.
he was the last season or the season before.
Yeah,
I don't know.
definitely at least a middle seed, if not like a 4 or 5 seed.
Yeah, for sure. To me, this was like the biggest. To me, this was the biggest upset of the week.
Yeah, I
Like
think it's hard to say
I
it's
probably would
not.
have 9 times out of 10 told you the Unknown was gonna win this matchup pretty hard.
Yeah, I think if we were doing like a like a survivor pool, this would have probably been a pick that a lot of people made, and we'd have a lot of people out right now because yeah, the Unknown
Yeah,
looked like to me pretty pretty poised to win this week. Lotus, what do you think about it?
yeah.
This is the kind of match where honestly I could have seen both sides win. I expected the unknown. They're coming back from a great championship. That being said, Icer is a great player, even though Brushy had a crazy season last time. Icer is doing really well in general and in THL. Um, so it doesn't really surprise me that Top Hat wins, but I would expect the unknown to do well.
Yeah, I think Unknown will recover. I think maybe Top Hat
Yeah.
Titans are better than we predicted, which is in a very crowded field here, an impressive start. It's weird, they got the win, they have 17 points, and that still puts them in tied for fifth place right now. So that's still a little ways off of the big dogs, so to speak. But we'll get back into
For
pro in a
sure.
little bit. We'll talk about what's going to happen in week 2. But before we jump into that, we're going to talk a little bit about the meta at each series. So, as you guys have noticed and been doing a fantastic job with, when you report your scores, now you have to report the very specific game-to-game matchups. Hunter beats Priest, Warlock beats Warrior, etc. So that gives us more information on what actually happens on a per game basis rather than just a per match basis, which has allowed us to extrapolate some more stats, which, if you're anything like me, you obsessively poured over the stats because you just like them. And that's going to let us see some lineup intricacies. And I just wanted to talk about each series and what we saw in week 1 and what we might expect going forward. Think of it as kind of like a verbal article from Altenberg, for those of you who may remember from a few seasons ago when he used to come out with those THL meta reports, and they were fantastic articles. So we miss you, dude, but
Yes.
we got to get the content somewhere. So why not here? Why not now? Let's pull up Legacy to start with. So what you're going to see on screen here is every lineup combination that showed up last week that either A, showed up more than one time, or won. So anything that went 0 and 1 is not going to be featured because you made a mistake and you shouldn't have brought it. But everything else, I'm not saying you made a mistake. Maybe you just didn't play well. I don't know, or you ran into a brick wall. But I don't think anyone's going to be too shocked with what you see here with Legacy. Legacy is known as the series where you want to be as versatile as possible. So right up the top, Rogue, Shaman, Warlock, Warrior, and then Hunter, Rogue, Warlock, Warrior, with 19 and
Just
14 instances each.
one quick note is some of
Yeah.
these results are before the nerf.
Yes, they are.
So some classes, Shaman might be one of them, have changed significantly.
Which will be interesting to see the week over week change. But Shaman
Yes.
does still have some pretty serious chops on ladder. I've seen it's still strong. So I don't think it's going to fade away entirely. I think it'll still at least be in that top 5 of classes. The interesting thing is like Rogue, all the decks that you can bring for Rogue all kind of tend to operate in the same vein. It's not like one's a control deck and one's an aggro deck. Like all the Rogue are kind of doing the same thing, and yet Rogue is still up there in the top 2 lineups. I think that's just a testament to how strong the class is right now.
Yes. Also, all the Galacrons.
Oh yeah, can't all 4 are Galacrons. Yes,
All
Hunter
4
Hunter
Galacrons.
being the only of the top 5 that is not a Galacron deck, and Hunter itself has a couple options in Face Hunter, Quest Hunter, the Secret Highlander Hunter. So again, you're looking at a versatile deck. But look at that win rate drop between the top lineup to the second lineup.
Yeah.
It goes from 58% to 43%. Now, what do you think contributes the most? Like, is it the inclusion of Hunter over Shaman that does that? I don't know if that's enough to say like, oh, we're gonna drop 5 entire series.
Honestly, I don't think we have enough samples, especially with the nerfs coming in, to assess exactly what happened there. If it was before the nerfs, I would say, yeah, Shaman was really dominant. And so not bringing it was definitely hurting your lineup. That being said, what the data indicates right now is that Rogue can be hit a bit. In the sense that the lineups without Rogue did better. So if you're just looking at this data blindly, that means you might want to think twice about bringing Rogue.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. Like if you look at the third lineup on the list, Hunter, Shaman, Warlock, Warrior, the first one that does not contain Rogue, has one of the better win rates among, among brings that had at least 3. And then it has a positive game win percentage, even if it's just slightly over 50%. And then as you start to go down the list here, Hunter, Priest, Warlock, Warrior has like a 1 and 2 win loss, but it ended up being positive 7 to 6 in game wins and game losses. So that tells me that like one class got targeted pretty hard in that lineup. Mako, you have
Yeah.
any thoughts on this here? Like just the stats we're looking at?
Yeah, if you look closely, you'll notice that the 4 lineups that brought Druid all won their matches this week.
Sneaky.
Rip.
Yeah, Druid, Hunter, Priest, Warrior. That's a sexy lineup right there. It's 2-0, 6-2, so 3-1, 3-1, or a 3-2, 3-0.
Yeah.
Sage in chat, I hear that putting Gala into Quest Res Priest without any invoke cards as tech versus control is actually good. I too have actually heard that exact thing. And Lotus, that's a good question for you as you're kind of our resident meta expert. Have you seen any decks that are doing exactly that? Because I have seen it, and I do think that there's something to it.
So the idea there is just in the res freeze, sometimes you want some extra value and you don't really care what it is. It's kind of the same idea behind Elysiana. So the core is you're just playing a card that says you'll beat control mirrors. And for that sense, yeah, I expect it to actually be a pretty good card in the mirror. And the data seems to indicate that that's true. So it's good in the mirror. It's good against something like Control Warrior. Against anything else, you're paying 7 mana for a deadly shot and downgrading your hero power.
Yeah, it's a one card tech inclusion, which is not a big investment a lot of the time.
No.
From what I read about, because I haven't played the one with that card in it, but from what I read about, people were playing that as just like a counter to the mirror matchup.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. I expect it to be good in the mirror just because it will give you some extra value. And especially when we're talking about turn 20 or so, it does make a difference.
Well,
The fact that you are still having threats.
I think it'll be interesting to see if that starts to creep its way into the THL meta, since that is a very THL, especially with the closed deck list, is very tech heavy. So it is a valid tech inclusion that could end up actually starting to make its way in, I think.
I can see it.
But is THL very priest heavy? Because if people aren't bringing priest a lot, no one's gonna put them in their deck for the mirror.
Well,
So
I appreciate that you asked the question because that's a perfect segue to the next chart. So
Let me. Okay, It looks like it's fairly priest heavy, but just kind of like shitty priest. Like no one's. No, not even 11. 11? No,
no,
not worth
16
it.
games. 16
Oh, that's
games.
paladin. Sorry,
Yeah, you're
priest.
looking
Yeah,
at the
still not
wrong one
worth
there.
it.
16 games in which Priest was played, and in those games it had the second lowest win rate of any class, with only Mage being worse. So it went 7-9, which is not, I mean, it's not terrible, 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 but it's not great in, a best of 5 series. You can see like Warlock was brought 77 times and still didn't even have a positive win rate.
So this, I feel like, and this is just from everyone I've talked to and just from looking at some of the numbers, almost all lineups this week will include 3 classes, which are Warrior, Warlock, and Rogue. They're going to be in a majority of lineups. So the question becomes, what is going to be the 4th class? So is Priest good enough to be that 4th class? Is it going to be Hunter? Is it going to be Shaman? Is it going to be one of the others? And I feel like that's where things stand. I think a lot of people will defend that, yeah, Priest can be the 4th class, and we'll have to see whether that remains true or not.
It's definitely tough because you don't want in Legacy to bring that 4th class and have it get targeted, and there is a very realistic
Yes.
possibility of that happening. And it all depends
Priest
on.
does have 2 decks.
They do. Combo Priest is still a possibility, and of course it can just pop off and win you the game on turn 4 or 5 if you happen to draw really well. So it is kind of a get out of jail free card a little bit if you do suspect that your Priest is going to get targeted and they're gearing up to be anti-res Priest. But it is a little bit riskier in Legacy than it would be in Hero, for example.
Yeah.
So speaking of Hero, loving the segues. Let's talk about Hero real quick.
Alrighty, let's do it.
So we got the same chart that we just saw for Legacy. You'll see the numbers are slightly smaller, but that's because the population of Hero is significantly smaller, 8 teams to be exact. So the big one here, Rogue, Shaman, Warlock, Warrior, hello again, 5-0, 15-2. Just dominant across the board there. That's a really, really good lineup, it looks like. And then Hunter, Rogue, Warlock, Warrior, also very popular. Pretty middling, though, as far as the stats are concerned. And then Hunter, Priest, Warlock, Warrior. So this is a situation where, if you're thinking, okay, Priest can't be targeted, I'm going to bring it. It got brought 5 times, and it was just not a good experience for anybody here. Though I would like to see, I guess, what the ban stats were on Priest, because maybe Priest got banned every time and you were just playing Hunter, Warlock, Warrior.
I'm not sure that Priest was banned that much. I think there's something to be said about the role of Priest in Hero, which is different than the role in Legacy. In Hero, Priest can be used more as a hard counter to certain decks, versus in Legacy, you need to squeeze through with it. So there's definitely something to be said about where it's going to be more likely to be seen.
So looking back at that first week, it was banned 4 times. Not necessarily 4 times in that specific lineup, though. So that doesn't tell the whole story there. But
Right.
yeah, Mako, what do you think about the stats here?
Don't bring Hunter, Shaman, Warlock, Warrior.
yeah, we we talked about
Yes.
the top few, and then just sitting just below with 4 brings and an absolutely dismal
Two
record.
game wins and 12 game losses.
Yeah, that is not good. And on its surface, that doesn't look like a bad lineup. It's 4 of the strongest 5 classes or so right now, according to pretty much everybody bring wise. And then 2 and 12. What the heck happened there?
I don't know. Either you have some bad players bringing those lineups, or it's just a really shitty lineup. We don't
Uh,
know.
I mean, I guess it's hard to know after 1 week. Something we might be able to take a look at a couple weeks down the
True.
line and see once we've got some more significant stats. But yeah, quite a few one-time use lineups you'll see as we get down further, and I think that's indicative of Hero. You can bring the off-the-wallish lineups a little bit, but one word you will not see anywhere on this chart is the word Druid, which we talked about in Legacy. Not a single Druid won.
Nope.
So that's a tough spot right now. Then again, I mean, we say no Druid one. It doesn't look like any Paladins one either, but I don't think anyone's really touting Paladin as a meta breaker right now. So that's
Nope. It is not.
it. By the way, for those who don't know, it is a class you can play it. If you go into Hearthstone, it's on the select screen there, so you can play Paladin if you want to. That's
Yeah,
totally up to you.
Paladin's out, guys.
But yeah,
Oh,
that's
this is happening live. Should I accept this friend request from my opponent I just beat with exact lethal?
Wait, are you still playing Hearthstone? How long did your game go on?
No, I just continuously playing right now. Like I've
Oh
played
well,
like
thanks
3
for
games since
thanks
we
for
started.
thanks for
Don't
all of
play
your
while live.
thanks
Dude,
for
I
your
would like to
focus
point
here.
out I was thrown into this 20 minutes before it started, so I agreed to be on it, but I wasn't gonna drop literally everything I was in the process of doing. Okay,
All
I got
right, we'll take what we can
thinking
get, I
I don't get play
suppose.
a lot. This is what I'm doing, so we
Um,
out here.
all right, we'll take what we can get. But yeah,
I'm
I
not
brought
See,
accepting
Paladin
I
it.
last week
canceled my
myself, and I
whole
lost.
evening.
You canceled your what?
I canceled all my evening plans just to be here.
That's
Lotus.
what a person would do if they have a commitment. You're correct.
Lotus, I appreciate you. I don't know if anyone has said that, but I personally appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I don't. Okay, this he just said GG, bro. That's it. I wasn't flamed. Accept your local random friend request today. It's a good day.
Yeah, maybe he was just happy to be playing not the Tavern Brawl. I played all the way through that being like, oh, there must be a reward for beating all 8, and there was nothing. And
Nope.
yep, I was like, well, excuse me while I go pour bleach down my throat. I've done far too many dungeon runs. I'm dungeon runned out at this point. I do not care.
No more.
If you
Get
haven't
me
done
out. Get me
yeah,
out.
if you haven't done the brawl yet, for anybody out there, it's a single player dungeon run experience where the whole premise is that Reno's an idiot. So congratulations, it's the same thing as every other time. Uh, so
Pretty much.
Mako's the one. Yeah, Mako's the one that's still playing Hearthstone while co-hosting the stream.
You know what? I'm about to ask him to join THL, so back off, former fellow board member.
Okay, Desharmo, you go
I
do your
might be.
recruiting.
I'm doing DeSharmo's job. Okay.
Anyway, here's the hero spread. So you can see that this one's a little bit more balanced. Like Shaman actually took quite a hit and went from being the 3rd most popular class to only the 5th most popular class. And by not a
Right.
small margin either. Like the difference between Hunter and Shaman is 10 brings.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And
Shaman's
by 5th I mean
it's
6th most
struggled a
popular. I
lot.
apologize.
Like it got hit with nerfs like 2 patches in a row. It's not surprising.
And the thing is, a nerf of a card from 1 mana to 2 is really major. Maybe more than some of the other nerfs. I think Invocation of Frost can't be overstated in terms of how big that nerf is, because it takes a card that you could just put anywhere, and now it actually takes some effort to make it work.
But on a positive note, it is now findable by the 1-cost spells for the Totem or Spirit of the Frog.
Yeah, but you already had the buff guy spell, which was already pretty good.
I don't see too many people running the Buff a Guy spell right now though, unless like they're running aggro overload. But I see your point. Icicles, Lotus is also here, by the way.
That he be.
I am here.
So yeah, please don't forget Lotus. He's a very important member of the team. Mako jumped in as Icon could not be here on very short notice, and Mako is familiar with how we roll. So it was a decision based on
Correct.
well, purely because he said, hey, I can go.
Yep.
So last but not least, let's talk about the pro meta, which since it is also Conquest, will probably look pretty similar to. Oh wait, there's Priest with a huge win rate. And I think I think there's the big differentiation here is obviously the open deck list. There's no you can play Priest and you're like, listen, I'm bringing Res Priest. I don't care that you know it because you can see the list. You can't now counter me. You've already chosen your 4 lists. So I think that
Yes.
speaks to the strength of a deck like Res Priest, that when it doesn't have a chance to be specifically targeted.
That is true. Res Priest has one issue that the other decks don't have, in that a lot of the decks have very smooth spreads. Like Rogue's spread is really nice because even in the worst case scenario, you don't lose by that much. Versus Res Priest does have terrible matchups. And there are
Oh yeah.
individual cards that can target
Absolutely.
it.
The thing that I talked to someone in one of our other team discords about it, because he's really high up on the Res Priest, and I try to explain to him like Res Priest it's a good deck. Like no one's gonna argue that it's not a good deck, but
Oh
at the
yeah.
same time, like it has a game plan, a single game plan, and if you can play
Yes.
around that game plan, you can beat the matchup. Because
Yes.
like we were talking about the Galakrond Warrior or the Galakrond Warlock matchup into Res Priest, and I told him that like I never lost that matchup because like every time I play that matchup, I literally just play the same game plan as the priest. Like I can get a wide board if I want, but like I don't go. You don't go face at all unless you have like a really good chunk of damage because they're just gonna heal it back up, and then you're just gonna make them stronger. So you just play that. You just coast by until that mid to late game, and then you start actually pumping damage out. And at that point, they've used some
Yes.
of their best cards, and then they don't really have much to do. And yeah, like you just got to know the game plan of the Res Priest, which is why I'm always hesitant.
Well, that brings us
Yes.
back to the discussion with the inclusion of Galakron, because a lot of what I was seeing the sub out is the quest for Galakron, because of the exact reason you just mentioned, where if you're playing it on one, your opponent immediately knows that I can't damage you unless that damage is going to stick because you're just going to heal it, and that's just going to benefit you in the long run. So that to me is just like, rather than throwing up that red flag right away and saying please don't touch my face with your minions, now you've got another option that you can play, and as you mentioned, it has that outvalue option in the late game. So it is not an entirely different game plan, but it's like half of a game plan, and that's half more of a game plan that you had than you had before.
True, and it also
Yeah.
tells your opponent like I'm free to attack this guy, and if you still have the same amount of heals in your deck, then you can still heal up just like you would beforehand, but you're actually getting value out of those heals.
Yeah. There's also something to be said about specific tech cards, where priests can be hit by very specific tech cards that stop your plan. I'm thinking two good examples of cards that really hurt priest are the 4 mana 3/9 that summon 3 minions for your opponent, and good old Tinkmaster Overspark. Both cards can really
Here's a name
hurt
I haven't heard in
priest.
a while.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I forgot he was in my collection, I'll be honest.
Yeah, he's useful sometimes.
Oh, without a doubt, there's been metas where he's been a pretty solid inclusion, a la like Harrison Jones, but it just really depends on how prevalent the deck that he's going to need to hit is in the meta. Obviously
Yes.
playing ladder, you have no idea on a game-to-game basis whether or not you're going to run into that deck, but that's why when he would be only something you want to bring out if it's a deck you're going to see like 30 to 40% of the time. Otherwise, you're just turning your own dudes into squirrels, and at that point, why are we even here?
Right.
So this is the spread chart of Pro as well. As you can see, this one is polarized completely because you went from Rogue Shaman, Warlock, Warrior, and then Hunter, and then everything else is just a crater. But
Wow, that Hunter.
yeah, interestingly enough, this is where Mage actually shined. So Mage 5-2 in its limited run. At 71%, but that's a pretty small sample size. Obviously, could have been some high rolls,
Yeah.
some extreme Luna Pocket Galaxies. If you happen to catch the stream last Saturday, we saw that happen. That plus the Dragon Breeder, which makes your next spell cost 0, was a pretty intense turn. So please feel free to check that out if you want to see, what someone who I believe was in the game with Kel. If you want to see what it's like when somebody's soul dies in real time, just know what Kel was going through when he was watching that turn happen. But yeah, this nothing too shocking on this chart other than that compared to what we saw in the original Legacy chart. As you might imagine, Druid pretty not present, Paladin pretty struggling somewhat hard here, but yeah, Rogue good, Warrior good, not surprising results. So speaking of surprising results, let's see if there are any surprising results this week in Pro. That was a poor segue. I apologize.
How dare you?
How dare I, indeed. So we're going to talk about the Pro Week 2 preview here before we depart for the evening. At least somebody loves it.
Don't feed him.
It's all right. I've been watching the Games Done Quick VODs, and
Oh,
I
that's so good.
I
They
mean,
were
the
good.
VODs are great, like the runs are great, but it just cements the opinion of the fact that everyone sucks at puns because of all the donations that come through that that somebody drops a pun. It's like these are not good, guys. Like even Alien Santa would be like, no, just no. So
Here's just a reminder that if you want to get your pun read by Donde, you can always sub to the THL channel,
hey,
and he will read your pun. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, I don't see why not. It seems like a good idea. So we're having a bit of a technical difficulty here.
Of course.
Oh, you shut your mouth, okay?
It's Stone Day runs.
I know the reason for the technical difficulty, and I'm going
I
to
mean,
fix it.
you've had a Discord difficulty, so that's my guess.
No, it's not that. Okay, so what happened was I made the images for Pro, the upcoming games here, and then I decided to go on a cleaning spree and clean out my picture folder because there's just way too many things in there that were named very similarly, and just it was not necessary. Um, and I definitely deleted the picture I just created.
Oops.
I would like to say, since we're in a public forum right now,
Go for it.
let me go and find it. So you know how like Highlander Warrior is gaining traction, like Highlander Control Warrior?
Yeah.
If you were in my legacy server and you scroll back to December 11th of 2019, whenever the set launched, you can find a very, very similar list to this Highlander controller that I was playing on day freaking 1. So I'm going to take that claim to fame and say that I invented the deck, even though I
Did
didn't.
did
But
you just rain at us like in real time here?
you bet I did.
Yeah.
You bet, because
He
yeah,
invented all
Boozer Prime,
decks.
yeah. I no, I legitimately played this deck day one, and it makes me so mad because if I had any sort of reach in the Hearthstone community, then I could have gotten this out there earlier. But no, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh man. Well,
Yeah,
technical
sad.
difficulties have been resolved here, and I
Have
now
they?
have they have, yeah, and it was resolved by me not remembering what I named the file and just restoring everything that had the word pro in it.
Lol.
So we'll figure that out after. But so up on the screen here, you can see we've got a little bit some results in. But we'll start by talking about what is probably the match of the week, which is FTL versus Bad to the Bone. Two of the teams that we most expect to be title contenders. And FTL's off to a 4-1 start with a win, Rabobson over Pasca. So is that a sign of things to come, or do we think that Bad to the Bone has enough juice to turn this around, Lotus?
I think Bad to the Bone can still turn this around. I'll question the choice of not bringing Rogue, because that just sounds wrong to me. Since Rogue is everywhere and feels strong every time I face it. That being said, no, it's definitely not over, and this is going to be a tight match. Itachi versus Eggo Waffle is going to be pretty good. Snake versus Avi is a good match. Ox has been having a killer season as well, so we'll have to see what happens there.
Yeah, I would think that FTL still has to be slightly favored, especially now getting the initial win. But yeah, Bad to the Bone will keep this at least close. Mako, what are your thoughts on
Yeah.
this match here?
I think Bad to the Bone's a better team than FTL, so I don't think this is out of range by any means. I think this literally looks like it came down to Pasca bringing a horrible lineup. I don't know what those decks are. I'm just taking a guess. What is this? Is this probably
I can
token?
tell you.
Is
I'm on the
is that
page.
Token Druid? I mean, probably figure out the other three, but is that Token Druid?
It's not. It's actually Quest Druid.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Quest
So
Druid,
again,
Highlander
again,
Mage, Control Warrior, and Cloning Gallery Res Priest.
yeah. So again, this came down to Pasca just bringing a bad lineup, but I think this is like Bad to the Bone still a better team on paper, and in my opinion, skill wise. But I think they got the most likely win out of the way. FTL did with Robson over Pasca, but the other four, I don't know. Like I don't think they're gonna be that easy.
No, this is gonna be a close match for sure.
Yeah.
Like if you had asked me pick one win in this matchup for FTL to have that I'm for sure on, I probably would have said the Rebob one.
That's fair.
Not
So,
for sure, but most likely. I
well,
should
yeah, I mean, if you had to pick
clarify.
one, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Second matchup this week is Beard Boys versus Propane Gang. Beard Boys in second place right now. Propane Gang trying to climb back in it. Have to imagine Beard Boys are favored. And we actually, when I took the screenshots earlier, there were no lineups here. The only lineup that has been revealed is the Hockey Boys versus Silent Red RT. And Silent is going with a pretty standard Hunter, Rogue, Warlock, Warrior. Hockey's a little off the wall, as he tends to be with Mage, Priest, Rogue, Warrior. So I don't know if that might, I don't want to say even things up, because, anything can happen in Hearthstone, but it does seem like Silent has the better lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Any
Yeah.
thoughts here on this matchup? Mako, we'll start with you this time.
I I love seeing Donnie in the 2 seed.
It is an unprecedented spot for him, I believe.
It's interesting. It's funny to look at. I would love nothing more. Like I would pay me going 0-3 this week in all 3 series to
No,
see Donnie get the sweep over my Anadon
I
and
won't let you pay
become the
that
number 1 seed in Propane Gang.
because you're on my team in 2 of the 3 series, and I will not
I know
allow
where
that.
I know where I'm at. Okay, I'll rephrase that. If I could just win in Legacy and lose the other 2, then I'll and so Donnie can win this matchup. I would love it.
So one matchup here I want to bring to your attention, Lotus, quickly before I get your opinion on it and the overall here. Boozosaurus, who has historically struggled in the early goings of the season, and I think as he starts to figure out the meta, he gets very, very solid. Darkside, who has struggled in just all of Pro, like beginning, middle, end, all of it. Is there
There.
is there a shot here for Darkside to maybe sneak in with his first win in Pro?
No, I think Booze wins.
No, okay, just I mean, Lotus
Ouch.
just rips the band-aid off, I guess. That's fine.
Yeah, Booze is a good player. I him to do well. So I know he's been putting the work for this week, so I expect him to win.
So I think this puts us all on the Beard Boys getting the W this week overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. Next matchup is the other guys versus the unknown. So the other guys are ahead right now. The unknown, the upset of the week last week, as we discussed, looking to bounce back. Catman has now dropped to the 4. Solo Jazz is, I think, still in the 5. He was in the 5 before. Now Brushy Tuna slides down to the 3 to face JR Juggerlaw. So everything is an even matchup except JR, who had the win, and Brushy Tuna had the loss. Does this still favor the unknown in your opinion, Lotus?
I think it does. I think the Unknown is a good team. They didn't have a great week last week, but I think they can make it back. They had a great season last time. I expected them to win, and FTL kind of cheated to get there by bringing an actual pro player. So
Wait, FTL? Do you mean
Those are called ringers.
called fingers? It was who did they play?
they brought Eddie. I
Did he
think they
play
brought Eddie,
Did
right?
he play last week? I don't think he played last week. Your
No,
monk
I
had
mean
You're talking
last
about
was
last
time,
up.
season.
last season.
Oh, last season. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. We're
Yeah.
throwing it back to 2019 here.
Yes. I'm throwing back to November.
All right, Mako. What do you think here? Other guys versus the unknown.
I think it's gonna be a really good matchup. These are the two teams that I always mix up with each other. Like when I think about like when I think of like one of them, I think of the other one's lineup. I don't. Yeah. Um. But yeah, I think this is gonna be really close. I mean, if I had to just put out a guess right now, I would say probably the unknown, but that's just going off of my preseason predictions. As of like literally right now, if I think they're gonna win based on last week, I don't know. We have 1 week's worth of stats. Um, but yeah, I think this is the closest matchup that we have this week,
I
except for maybe the next one.
I would
Didn't
say
look at the next one.
this or the
I
next
didn't look at
one.
the next one.
This or the next one. I'm gonna put it down that like a lot of the time, you hear the like the cliche of a must-win week, or like a pivotal week, and that's usually towards the end of the season. I think for me, this is a chance for the other guys to really put a stamp on it and say like, last season wasn't a fluke. We are legit, and we're going to take this team out. And I think if the other guys can put a solid week together, I think that they will put the rest of the series on notice and let everybody know that they are a contender. And I think it's important for them to do that, as they're going to play some of the quote unquote weaker teams later in the season. And I think that if they can get the W here, that will put them in great position. So I'd look to see
For sure.
I look to see them have at least a very competitive week, if not try to pull off another win.
Mm-hmm.
So next game is, as you mentioned, a very tight match between Taste the Rainbow and Top Hatted Titans. Top Hatted Titans of the upset of the week, and Taste the Rainbow are tied with them at 17 points. So this one will be probably the biggest impact on the standings overall. Skittles versus Icer is a huge matchup, and we can already see, we can't see it on screen, but the lineups are Paladin, Priest, Warlock, Warrior for Skittles, Rogue, Shaman, Warlock, Warrior for Icer. So it looks like, just lineup wise, I would have to favor Icer in that one. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, most likely.
Now I have to do it's pro, so I can check the lineup. So I'm gonna do that because I just want to make sure Icer didn't bring 4 Murloc decks. Oh my God, he brought a Murloc deck.
Murloc decks are really good against Rogue right now.
Okay, it's not a Murloc deck. It's like Murloc themed Galakron Shaman. It's got Mermy and Sledge Slurper in it, and Underbelly Angler. So it's got like the alternate early game.
It has the early game.
Yeah, it has the early game package. Okay,
Uh,
I'm less outraged. I will never heal from the Murloc defeat that I suffered in pro against Icer. Um, so, we saw Top Hat Demon lose week 1, and he performed very well last season in pro. He was an all-star or all-pro, I should say, in pro. I have to think that he could bounce back. And if Icer, Icer wins the matchup as I currently think that he will, looking at the decks. If Silver is for real and can go 2-0 here, I think Top Hat Titans gets a second win.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I don't know much about the 3 and 4 seeds for Taste the Rainbow, but Top Hat's a really strong player. I think that for sure the weakest link on Top Hat Titans is Silver, but that's just from my experience with him and playing in the 5 seed. But I haven't seen him play against some of these higher level players. But
Yeah, I don't know much about Lil
yeah,
Harthy, but I think Lil Harthy is like a 3 seed in Legacy. And Quirky is a 5
do you know
seed in
anything
Legacy.
about the Taste the Rainbow 3 seed?
Your mom Ked was a sub last week. It looks like probably now a permanent sub because it's not red anymore on the
Yeah,
page.
I meant just like in general. Do you know anything about him?
He played last season. I want to say Legacy, and I don't think there was anything remarkable about the season, so I don't know enough off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Well then,
Well done.
we have 2 more games to talk about. The Menagerie versus Tap Last. 2 of the teams that kind of shot under the expected projections last week. So this one actually already has a result that was not listed here. CMAC with a sweep over 9 eyebrows. So they're up 4-0. Tap Last is trying to reclaim some lost ground here, and I think that they might do it. That was 9 eyebrows was 1-0 last week. I think that's a big win for Tap Last, and I see some other spots here where I think that they can probably take at least four of these games. I think Top Last gets a big bounce back week here. Lotus, what do you think about this matchup?
I think I agree. I think this is going to be a good week for Tap Last. Yeah, they struggled week one, but they're still a good squad. I can see them making it. That being said, Triz is on the other side. Triz versus Bill Snyder is really interesting because they are players who are just really close. I know they tend to play a lot together. So it would be a great match to see on stream.
Yeah, that was the one match I was thinking that Menagerie is most likely to take if there's any here in this series. But I could also see Tap Last taking all 5. But if I had to put my money down, I'd say 4-1 Tap Last with Triss getting a W. How about you, Mako?
Also, Base Dink, I think, will win. But yeah.
True.
Yeah, I think on paper I like Tap Last here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 seats. I don't want to predict a sweep. I don't want to because the Menagerie is still a good team. I don't know. I just based off past experience and what I know about the players, I can't count. I cannot go against Space because I'll hear shit from her in her legacy one. So the Menagerie is going to win the 1 seed. But yeah, no, I like Tap Blast on paper here.
So our final match of the week is the one that 2 of us have the most stake in. That's Aeon versus Defias Brotherhood. This is also updated with a 3-0 sweep for Markshire over Izanami. So Aeon's up 4-0 right now. Only 11 points, sitting near the bottom of the standings at the moment, but looking to kind of capitalize on the early disarray that is Defias Brotherhood. Lotus, since you're not biased, what do you think about this game here?
So I actually think you guys are favored in this one.
Oh, thank you.
I think Hat versus Comp is a great match, and that one's going to be interesting. I don't know most of the players in Defias Brotherhood. I feel like a lot of them are new to THL, so I could be wrong. I know Icicles has been around, but I haven't heard
Yep.
Akaname, Edamame, whatever his name is.
Izanami. Oh, Izanami and Ekaname. There are two of them.
Okay. Whoever Edamame is, I don't
Icicles is a
know.
sub. He would like us to remind. He mentioned that he mentioned last week he was a sub. He's still a sub.
Yeah, okay. So he's still a sub. I think Icicles versus Mako is going to be an interesting one. That's going to be a good match, I think. I am not sure. I expect you guys to win. I expect this to be a 15-10 or something, like an easy 3-2 or a 4-1, a close 4-1, something like that.
Well, as stated, we do have the sweep so far, which is going to help us tremendously. Epical Noise got a
Yes.
W in the Legacy series. He's 0-1 here in Pro. So is there a case to be made for him to bounce back and beat Coles?
I consider Cole's a great player, so
No one likes to
it's
say
hard to
Cole's a
beat
great player.
Cole's.
Dunda didn't like that.
I don't like giving him
No.
any credit.
I've made so many jokes with that already. I can bring them back if you want. I
No.
mean, you have better Donde versus Epical Noise, so
This makes me sad. Mako, why don't you go ahead and talk some smack, which will get me going again here.
I mean, man, I got my blowtorch ready. I'm ready to melt some icicles, man. Is that good? Was that a good a pun for the
That
good
was all right.
pun
That was
for
all
Aeon
right.
Santa?
yeah,
All
it was
right,
fine.
sweet. All right,
Icicle says
cool.
he's not going to let you dominate, so it'll be interesting. Also,
No, you gotta charge. I charge for that.
oh,
Um,
okay.
I mean, I don't know what I'm bringing yet, so he already knows. So he's a step ahead of me there. I gotta figure that out through HearthCenter. That's what I was gonna do between the hours of 9 and 10, but
I say, imagine submitting before midnight on the East Coast in 2020.
yeah, crazy,
True.
right?
Not
Hey, I should
not
have.
where I want to be.
Yeah,
I
So
yeah, no, I definitely will be spending the next half hour to an hour after this figuring out exactly what I'll be bringing. But yeah, I think Aeon will get their first win of the season here. I am confident in my team's ability to successfully succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the last game. I don't yet. True. Um, I will throw it to you guys. Any other last parting thoughts on anything we've talked about tonight, or just anything else? I'll give Lotus the floor first since you missed last week. Anything that you have before we head off tonight?
So I'll say 3 quick things. Number 1, we managed to go over an hour, which we always do.
You did call it.
Yeah. Number 2, this seems like a really exciting season. All the teams look really strong in Legacy, Hero, and Pro. So didn't say this last week because I wasn't here, but I'm super excited to see what happens over these next few weeks. And the third thing is Duos finals are coming.
Yes, I
And
forgot to mention that.
yeah, one of the players who's still in the top 3 is right here. So
yep.
it's going to be fun. We're doing our best to have all matches on stream. I have the schedule. Probably going to announce the time for the first one really soon, since we don't need the responsible one of the players to decide the first match. So be ready for that. You guys should keep an eye out because it's going to be a very hot match.
Yeah, we definitely want to get the winners of the duo series on here once that does complete. So hopefully, if that finishes up fast enough before Wednesday, we can make the arrangements for that next week. And if not, then we will have it on a future HearthCenter. But yeah, looking forward to seeing who does take home the title there.
Yeah, I'm going to give my. I'm going to cheer for Meko and Booze. I hope you guys make it, but it's going to be a tough way there.
I'm sure it's been a
Man,
tough road the whole time, but yeah.
part of me hopes we make it, and the other part of me just wants us to not even try because that would mean 5 THL matches within 1 week. So
That is true.
the
I
body
believe in
can
you.
only take so much.
We'll see if Booze shares your opinion on that. Mako, anything you want to say before we head out?
No, I don't actually.
How's your ladder match going, buddy?
It's going, man. I'm about to get my face melted off by this Malagos rogue. So
Yeah, they do that sometimes.
I'll let you know in a second.
uh, see, Booze is in chat saying he don't. If there's no other questions or anything like that, we will be heading out for the evening. So as always, best of luck to everybody in all series this week. Don't forget to submit, as that is coming up about 5 hours. You got 5 hours. If not, we'll roll your classes over because there were no DQs last week. So I wanted to shout that out. Hat shouted out in Discord, but it's very, very cool that we managed to avoid any DQs for submissions in week 1. So that was pretty sweet. So keep it up. Uh, look forward to seeing you guys here again next week, next Wednesday, same time. Mako, you're, always welcome here, buddy. Except if I invite you next time, no ladder
Dude.
games while we play, while we stream. But that's it for us. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you around. If there's any questions or any other ideas for segments or anything you'd like to see, please definitely feel free to hit us up. If you have not subscribed to the Twitch channel, please feel free to do so. If you have Twitch Prime, it is always free, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks. Have a great night.